What's going on, everybody? It is Juan from Raven Drone Solutions here with another video. So in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about what do I not love about being a drone service provider. My previous video was what do I love about being a drone service provider. If you missed it, it is linked down below in the description. Now, I don't want for it to be all doom and gloom, but I figured that if you're going to do something and you're going to take the step of being a drone service provider like I'm doing, you should know a few things. Now, granted, a lot of this is just my own personal opinion and experience. Your experience may be very different, so just take it with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion. Anyways, guys, without further ado, let's get right to it. Just to start off, I just have to say that I actually really love the drone industry. I think it is an amazing experience. I think it's a great industry to be in, especially if you're somebody like me that you really love aircrafts and you love, you don't just like to stick to one thing. You like to do, you like to have different options, whether it's creative side or industrial or whatever the case might be. But I feel like you should also know the truth about certain things. And that brings me to my first portion of my video, and one thing that I like and I don't like is the fact that a lot of times travel is required. Whenever you're doing, especially things like with media companies, or you're doing like industrial stuff like telecommunications, or you're mapping out construction sites, whatever, sometimes it requires you to travel. And I've seen guys that have been in the drone industry for already several years. Sometimes they're surveyors and things like that. And I mean, they spend a lot of time on the road, like a lot of time on the road. They're at hotels every day. Now, for some people, this may not be a big deal. For other people, it might. For me personally, I'm married. I don't mind being away from home for a little bit. My wife understands, but at the same time, I don't always like to be away from home. I mean, I've lived overseas for years. I've spent a lot of time, especially my first, really my first 10 years of adulthood. I spent much of my time away from home. I was in the Marine Corps. I was also a security contractor. So, I've traveled around a lot. I mean, I've lived in, I would say, about 8 different countries now outside of the United States. So it kind of gets to you after a while. And even though as much as I love seeing different things, sometimes I do like being close to home. I like to be somewhere familiar. I like to be able to be with my wife and have my dog and just relax a little bit. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not possible. You spend a lot of time on the road. I, for one, drive a lot. I spend a lot of time driving to get to one site and another. So yeah, sometimes that can be a little bit of a challenge. That can be something that sometimes isn't always a pro about the drone industry, but for some people it's not a big deal. For me, it's kind of like, it's a little bit of both. It really depends on the situation. Next up, and I've talked about this many times, is the fact that there's a lot of negativity online. Yeah, that's something that you unfortunately can't really do a whole lot about. Unfortunately, some people, it's just misery loves company, so they try to take you down with them. I could post this video online and you'll have 10 people commenting saying how, they'll just say things that, they would never say to my face. So unfortunately, yes, that is something that you do see a lot of. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of pettiness. Now, with the pettiness, a lot of pilots, they can be very petty and vindictive. There's a lot of, there's a lot of people that they think that they need to sabotage the competition, which, like I said, to me, and I've mentioned this in other videos, there's no real point of doing that. Believe me, there's plenty of work to go around. A lot of it you just have to find your own markets, and some people they don't know how to just play fair. Fortunately, there's a lot of people like to play dirty. So that's something that unfortunately I've had to deal with a few times, and it's just something that you just have to develop thick skin, because it's not going anywhere, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the unfortunate fact of the drone industry. That's just something you got to deal with. Now, one thing I have to point out, and you should understand this before you really think about becoming a drone service provider, is the fact that it's a lot of work up front. That's just with any business, really, but a lot of people, they make the mistake and they think that all they're really going to be doing is flying a drone and unfortunately, that's not the case. Now, it really depends on how deep you want to go into it. For me, I knew from day one I wanted this to look, act, and breathe like a business. So I made sure that my logo, website, uniforms, everything, marketing, everything was very business-like. And unfortunately, some people don't have this mentality. I mean, I've seen other people that do a way better job than I do, but definitely just understand that there's a lot of work you got to do, and especially when you're a one-man show like me. I mean, my wife helped me out a lot, but yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, really, until we started to see results and people actually started looking at us like a business, it took quite a while. It took a good couple months for people to be like, oh, okay, this is actually a company. Like they're actually, you know, they're actually providing a service. So yeah, that's definitely something you have to take into consideration. And yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, unfortunately not a lot of people talk about. But yeah, it's a lot of work up front. Another thing that I don't really like too much about the drone industry is that many times you have to subcontract, or, you know, have a, like, you know, you're working as a third party contractor because, you know, you don't have the clientele, and sometimes there's just an easier way to make money. But unfortunately, that's not always the best way to make money. I've talked about this many times on many different videos. But yeah, it's unfortunately when you do a lot of subcontracting, you know, the pay can be very low. Like I said, most people use this as paid practice. But that's something you got to keep in mind. And it's something that I'm not a huge fan of. I've honestly had to turn my back on several companies because what they were paying was so low, and you know, they wanted me to do all these things. I'm like, yeah, listen, you want me to do all this, but how much are you paying? Because this is not, I mean, it's eating into my profits. Like, I got to do this, and this. Oh, and by the way, you want this gear and that gear? Well, that's going to come out of my pocket. Okay, well then how much are you paying? And I'm like, yeah, listen, I'm sorry, this is not worth my time. You know, I'm sorry, see you later. So yeah, that's definitely a negative. Sometimes you just got to push a little bit and they'll budge, but not always, especially if it's a really big company. They can just have somebody else do it, and they'll agree to the price, and you know, they'll keep their mouth shut. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. That's one thing I really don't like about the drone industry. Another thing I don't like is that with the cost of a lot of services going down, you know, competing can be quite tough. You know, there's a lot of different things out there that, you know, they don't cost what they used to cost. So you can't really charge top dollar anymore because they can find a way to do it quicker and cheaper. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. It's something you got to stay on top of. You know, really with the advancement of technology, with AI and things like that, yeah, it's something that unfortunately is just something we're gonna have to contend with. Another thing, and this kind of depends on where you're at, but a lot of people don't take drone pilots very seriously. I know here in Miami, it can be quite difficult because a lot of people think of drone pilots as hobbyists, and they try to pay us as hobbyists. You know, for me, when I go out and offer my services, you know, I charge full price, and some people are like, whoa, hold on, like, but why are you charging so much? Like, well, because of all these reasons. And you know, they understand, they see how I work, and they're like, okay, now it makes sense. But like, yeah, before I thought you guys were just hobbyists and you're just trying to make money, like extra gas money. I'm like, no. This is actual work. So yeah, unfortunately, that's something you're going to run into quite a bit, and in some places more than others. But yeah, a lot of people still see drone pilots as hobbyists and not as like serious work. Another thing is that unfortunately, drone pilots can, you know, they can make or break the drone industry. And unfortunately, there's many bad actors that really damage the reputation of the drone industry, whether that's they fly somewhere that they shouldn't, they invade someone's privacy, they crash something, they cause damage, you know, whatever the case might be. Unfortunately, there's many drone pilots that kind of give a black eye to the drone industry, and that's something that unfortunately we all have to deal with. But it's definitely a downside because it really hurts everybody else. The last and certainly not least, if you do not have a good support system, or at least people that can help you, it can be a real challenge to make it. That's just really with any business. But as I said, because of the challenges that are kind of unique to the drone industry, yeah, if you don't have a good support system, if you don't have a supportive spouse or a supportive family or supportive friends, it can be very difficult. And it's an uphill battle. It really is if you don't have a good support system. I've been lucky that I've had a good support system, so it hasn't been as difficult as with others, but it is definitely something that you have to take into consideration. And it's something that, yes, I've actually met many pilots that have told me, yeah, look, I haven't really succeeded much, and a lot of it's because I just don't have a good support system. My spouse doesn't support me, my family doesn't support me. They think this is a joke or whatever the case might be. So that's just something you have to deal with, and it's a very individual situation. I've been very lucky, but unfortunately, I've met other people that are not. All right, guys, so that is it for today. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you want one of these, subscribe down below, and these videos will come directly to you. Tell me, what is something that you do not like about the drone industry? I would really love to know. Please keep it respectful. Please, we want to have a good community here. We want to make sure that we give out good information. So that way, anybody that wants to get into the drone industry, or people that are curious about the drone industry, people that want to hire people, people that want to hire other companies to do work for them, that we keep it a very respectful environment. So please, all I ask is just keep it respectful. But anyways, guys, that is it for today. See you next time.